Greetings, this is Professor Mark Gura. Welcome to my class where my students and I shine a light on education and bring it into sharp focus. Our goal is high quality teaching and learning, something we stretch for through facing unvarnished truths and seeking practical insights. What follows is a conversation I had in class with Dr. Reissman, instructional coach and curriculum expert. She's a frequent contributor to my class. Rose is the founder of the Writing Institute, one of many programs she's established or been deeply involved in to elevate required curriculum to the level of highly engaging, deeply meaningful, and inspiring learning experience. Welcome back to my class, Rose. Here we go. Oh, well, looks like Dr. Reissman is here. Okay, so let me share with everyone that you and I prepared some notes, but this is not really scripted. Let me start with a bit of an introduction. Can we call you Dr. Rose?
Yes, may I introduce myself?
Go ahead.
Okay, so with reference to my reason for being here and my credentials for speaking, I have been a teacher my entire life. I have taught all the grade levels. For the last 2 decades or so, I've focused on middle schools. My doctor thing is in literacy, which is ELA, reading, writing, talking, listening, doing podcasts and shows, etc. I work with a team of teachers, which is one of the reasons that I'm here tonight, because the team and I work together and find wonderful resources, opportunities for various subject content, and that includes ELA, social studies, mathematics, science, ESL, technology, and leadership. And that was the beginning point of this project.
Those are your bona fides. Why would I consider inviting you to my class? But this course, which is Technology Integration for School Leaders, and we interpret that as peer leaders, the most overarching theme that we deal with is the improvement of teaching and learning. And we have a particular focus on that, which is through the application of technology. Thinking about improving teaching and learning, we have a particular slant, improving the learning experience that teachers give their students. So that's the context, the box all of this is going to fit into. So you work at a middle school in Brooklyn. Maybe you'd like to name it?
Proud to name it. Ditmas 62, District 20, Brooklyn. And I have 18 teachers are all part of a wonderful community looking to teach things, to do better things with exciting, transformative opportunities for our students.
Okay, you're here tonight because you're an instructional coach. You scour the web looking for opportunities, looking for material and ideas and resources around which wonderful learning activities can be designed. So we're going to look at a few that you sent me. That was the beginning of this whole thing. Out of the goodness of your heart, you knew I was teaching this course. You sent me a list of, I call them programs, online programs, and I thanked you. And then I thought, well, why not invite Dr. Rose in to talk about these? And here we are. I want to mention to my group that we're going to look at these as examples. There's many more such things on the web. And these programs that you're going to talk about that you've curated for us and for the teachers you work with.
Shall I share them?
Sure, please.
Okay, so just to continue with what Professor Gura is saying, these are just 5 or 6 out of their infinite And I tried in this small selection to give ones that are literacy, ELA, that are social studies, science, technology, and a little bit of math. The thing is what they can do for you. First one is Innovation Lab. Now, this is put out by Scholastic. Scholastic and other publishers have decided, out of perhaps the goodness or perhaps the self-interest, to nurture an audience of caring, innovative teachers. They provide this. Innovation Lab is a version online of whatever lounge you sit in your school, and you chat away and you tell your colleagues what happened to you and who's observing you and what's going wrong and what should be done and what's good that should be done. And you just let yourself vent. But of course, there's always a danger if it's in your school that you're going to be venting and the wrong person's going to hear, or somebody's going to share it with the wrong people, etc. Innovation Lounge is what happens when you are venting with distance colleagues in a very safe and wonderful area where you share ideas and you as a teacher grow, because you're talking with people from different regions, different types of schools. I've always taught at a Title I inner city school in the 5 boroughs, but these are people from rural areas in the country, from very conservative, and they'll tell you, oh, I couldn't teach that here, or oh, that would be looked down on. And you grow as a teacher, plus you save. And you get wonderful feedback. But more than that, they have orchestrators who get you involved in research, in collab designing. So you fool around with design tools. There are meetings where you break out with other people in this lounge and you have to design together and talk together. You test new technology. You get a chance to distance mentor your students. Professor Gura pointed this out to me. This is not only for teachers. Yes, the lab, you can only enter this lounge if you're an adult teacher, but you get wonderful opportunities for your students, such as your students can get free materials and write reviews for it and then be published by Scholastics. Your students can join a cohort who are doing some kind of writing, social studies, math, research, etc. And the students become part of a network. And that's a very key thing. They're opportunities. I was able in the first year of this put up my students' collages, the divided heart collages. I was able to share that whole project online. They encouraged it. And I put up samples, and I was then able to share back with my students what people across the country were saying about their project. And my students were able to look at other students' projects of teachers in this lab, and they were able to comment. So you get lounge, talking, sharing, networking, opportunities costing nothing, chances to grow as a teacher, chances to be networking with teachers and learn something about different systems, and your students get a chance to comment on one another. So that's the first one.
Okay, well, it sounds to me like Scholastic Innovation Line is kind of a professional learning network, virtual professional learning network on steroids under the umbrella of one of the greatest educational publishers ever. And there are facilitators there. And joining a PLN, Professional Learning Network, is something I very much recommend everybody do. So this is the short list. We just did Innovation Lab, and you also flagged
Storyvoice is another aspect. They offer loads of things on Scholastic. And again, it costs nothing. And in fact, parents in your school can also register it. For Storyvoice has virtual read alouds and intimate sessions. Now, you know, when you get an author to come to your school for a day, and I've dealt with maybe 70 or 80 authors over my career. They come for one day. They only want to do a certain number of live sessions. They don't let you film them. Often they're good in one class, and in the other class they're already tired, so they don't respond. Or what they do is not really that exciting to students. Scholastic produces this. So there's a producer who talks. It's produced on a very high level. The author gives insight either into their craft. The author reads aloud and provides an activity for the child. And most important, there's an interactive component. So if you're actually watching it while it happens in real time, you send in questions and the author answers the questions right live. Hello, student, hello one from IS 62, from BS 187. Here's your question. This is how I would respond to it, which is really wonderful for the students. Now you might say, well, that's great. And I see it says every Friday or whatever, but gee, every Friday I'm in cafeteria that day, or I'm teaching some other class and I can't introduce anything like this. The great thing about this is that they then send you a link and you put it into your folder on your desktop. And sometimes there's a great author coming, but you're going to teach that author or you're going to teach that topic in 2 months from now. Or it's not the right time, or you can't do it because you're prepping for the standardized test. So you put it there and then you can teach it. And you have it, it's on demand, it becomes your own, it's curated, it's much better produced, unless, we have some kind of professional Tim Burtons in our schools. It's much better produced than anything you could produce. It's available online. The students experience the author, and usually there's an interactive activity. So for instance, Adam Gidwitz was on it, and he's doing a new book, a new mystery, and it's about coding. So he gave the kids a coding challenge and they had to code. It's so fabulous. And then, of course, if you've taught the author, the kids can imagine what the author looks like and what their voice sounds like, and then you can just use this from the folder. This is just endlessly wonderful, and parents can get into it. Remember, you're members of a team. I prepared this presentation with Professor Gura, and it's been very exciting to talk back and forth as a team with how we're going to use and present it.
I'll make a couple of quick points, Dr. Rose, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Number one, all of these resources, when I looked at them, I said, oh, well, these are great integrations of technology in kind of wonderful contexts. These are things that teachers could never hope to do on their own. These all require expertise and labor that goes beyond what any individual teacher or even team could do. And so that's very appealing because you just kind of jump on board this train and you've got something magnificent to do with your class. Bringing an author into a school is nothing new, but it used to cost a fortune.
Another point, it now costs $1,200 for a virtual, to get the author in virtually, about $5,000 or $3,000 to $6,000 to get them in live. These are all free, and they're major authors. And also, I see that either they're coached or they have, maybe the ones that they choose do have a style, but they do it in a very professional style there, and they have activities, everything is timed, and so it doesn't even have to be the whole lesson. And this is a touch that brightens up, takes the ho-hum to the hum excitement.
All right, last point, which is that every kid in elementary and middle school, part of the instructional experience is reading books. So it's not just that they're reading books in class and here's an author. This can be, here's the author of the book you're studying in class, which is an extraordinary way of multiplying value. Okay, that was a great one.
This is an author who's teaching the how-to of it online. And as I say, each of these people chooses what they're going to say, the authors, I assume, but they are either directed, coached, or maybe the production is that it's in a digestible, immediately infusible, usable, ready mode to go, and then you can spend the lesson and do what you want. Now, this is very important. This is something that was done, I think, a month or two ago. And those of you who know our school calendar know Ruby Bridges for sure is either going to be taught at every school. She's either going to be taught for civil rights and for being a little girl who walked through the doors alone, brave Ruby, and Ruby wrote a few books and children, etc. So that would be in February. But the girl on the left, who you might not know, who I actually do, Belen Woodward, is a child who decided that there weren't enough crayons to show Belen's beautiful skin, peach, and peach wasn't enough to represent her beautiful skin, representing her ethnicity and her race. And so she started her own company at age 13, and she then wrote a few books too. And so having Scholastic's being able, by virtue of its being Scholastic, to have Belen interview Ruby Bridges. So you have Ruby Bridges, once 5, walked to school in the desegregating schools, and Belen, 13, got up as a starter and showed the world through her crayon box that there are more shades for her skin than peach. And that juxtaposition, now Belen goes in with entrepreneurship, DIY, doing things yourself, cultural affirmation, but they're putting together two personalities like that and getting to watch it. And so that's going to go for February if you have to follow that calendar. It's going to go for civil rights. It's going to go for entrepreneur, and it goes for leadership. These two, of course, Ruby is now mature, but these two at a young age showed that young people can change the world. And so having that resource, well, maybe you couldn't teach it the Friday that they showed it. And we did actually show this in library to the book club, who happened to be meeting in the library, and they were thrilled because they've actually read books about the two of them, and they asked questions. And I actually convinced Professor Gura to do this segment. How excited I am, and no one could pay me to be this excited about having these resources, which are now on my desktop folder and being used throughout my school.
So just to recap a little bit, Ruby Bridges, A Talk to My Teacher, is a book published by Scholastic. What I see here is there's a whole ongoing series. They're asking you to subscribe, and these are streamed videos a la YouTube style. Why should a teacher want kids to look at this? Why isn't the book enough? Go ahead. Briefly.
Okay. If you read a book, that's one thing, the words, but having this come alive, and the teacher, of course, Belen says that during the interview, she states that she is a child, and the fact that it shows that children can change the world. Ruby Bridge changed American education, walked into the school and desegregated. Belen changed the world of Crayola crayons, which always had plenty, 64 colors. And she said, I know it's not diverse. And she wrote about it. So you've got two leaders as children writing and growing. And if that is an inspiration, putting that together and showing that, and many schools have leadership groups during school day now.
In this class, we've talked about engagement, motivation, student inspiration. If there's anything that really gets them where they live, and that's what we need to do as teachers, kids doing real things in the real world, learning about the real world, having an impact on their world.
And making it come live through bringing something like this in that's been orchestrated. No teacher would have the money or the expanse to orchestrate this.
Good. Okay. So we've discussed in this class Bloom's taxonomy and how, unfortunately, what goes on in too many schools is learning activities that are slanted towards the lots, the lower order thinking skills. So remember, understand, apply. And of course, we understand we don't want to eliminate that, but we want to include a deep focus on the HOTS, learning how to analyze, evaluate, and how to create things. First of all, you need technology to do that. There's no practical way to integrate instruction in the HOTS in an ongoing fashion without the use of technology. When you do that, you get kids in activities that are highly engaging, highly motivating, which allow them to create and to find their own passions in life and express themselves, student voice and choice. So this is a filter we've looked through things this semester, Dr. Rose, and that little spiel of mine brings us to another one of the programs that you've offered up, which is Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots. We'll cruise through this 5, maybe 10 minutes and see what kind of value this body of programs has to offer for teachers and their students.
First of all, Professor Gura came up with the idea of doing things better and doing better things. And I would say in the case of Jane Goodall is on every mandated ELA curriculum now. The readings directly, Roots and Shoots is a book of hers, but this is her site for students in the United States and teachers. Now, doing better things. What can be better than saving a life? And you know for sure that you saved a life when it's an animal's life, because a human, you get into the emotional and the trauma and all that, but the animal gets its life saved. You get every week a newsletter. It costs nothing. You become part of the Roots and Shoots network, costing you nothing. It's a network dedicated to the mission of Jane Goodall, which is making the world a better place and doing better things to save animals, to conserve, to learn. So then we get into science. She's got free professional development with free certificates that you can get credit for in your credits. She's got a network of teachers and a newsletter published every 2 weeks, which could have a picture of your class. How do I know? Because Amanda Xavier and I, singly and together, have done projects. She gives you money, $250 for Roots and Shoots grants when you, the teacher, come up with an idea. Then she publishes pictures of you in your class and the idea that you did. In our case, it was, here you see real children. As a teacher, you get professional development education, you get updated, you're a science teacher, or you're teaching in as part of that mandated curriculum there. You happen to be teaching Jane Goodall anyway in ELA. You're a social studies teacher, and conserving animals is an aspect of that. Mathematics, how much money does it cost to save animals? What are the prices? That's for the teachers. For students can be published here. They have leadership programs for students. Students can be recommended by you. Students love animals. Students transform into champions of animals, which is a good sign. Then they want to champion people. And they can have a leadership where they're part of a student leadership group, not only with the kids at PSIS 62 or PS 187, but with the kids around the country. And they work on things with technology, making videos, making petitions, posters. Raising awareness means going out and educating the world who doesn't realize what this is. There it is, apply for project grants. Their project grants are given fall and spring, and it goes to so many subjects and content, and they are so generous in their work and their prompts, and so relevant.
So through this site, they provide curriculum and instructional materials, as well as opportunities for the students to publish, to be featured in the online publication. So you know what, Dr. Rose, I remember years ago at DITMIS, this may go back 10 years, you did something very similar, but on a very simple level. You took kids to a dog shelter or
That was exactly the project that we had funded by Roots and Shoots,
I
and
see.
we're even in, and we had it published. We're in the backlog. They have a whole library here of published student projects. And again, we want to network as teachers. We would like to go out and network with some other teachers in other places. But through this, you as a teacher can network, and the students can network. The students are very excited. Before we generate projects, we have them look at the library here of student projects. But we did that by their giving us a grant, Mark. You only saw the local impact.
Well, you said something important there, that there's a library of projects. So any teacher who can break free some bandwidth to do something doesn't have to do the same project as everyone else, because there's a library of projects already there. Playing devil's advocate, I would say any teacher who wants to invest a serious amount of extra work can arrange a tour of the local Humane Society dog pound and bring the kids back and have them give each adopt a dog and make a poster, please give me a home. And that alone will be the most effort that teacher exerts that year. Or, and I'm saying this because it's emblematic of all of these programs, you can take advantage of this well thought out, expansive program that's already good to go online and do many of these things, without killing yourself. Take advantage of all of the expertise and labor and money that's been invested in this already.
And also, and we need then to move to our next resource, also they add current knowledge. So currently, for instance, Forever Wild, this project is suggesting that some people shouldn't be keeping certain animals at pets because they're wild animals and they don't belong in houses or homes. And they give you wonderful surveys and other opportunities to look around at things like that. Kids can then become the ambassadors and the informers or the leaders in educating people. In New York City have many pets who are illegal and who don't belong in apartments or house residents. So this builds on knowledge, we the teachers and we the students.
One or two quick points occurred to me while I was listening and looking, that it's kind of cool that when you register free for yourself and your students, you become part of this thing and you can revisit this. There's no obligation, but it's continually updated. There's more text, more info, more activities on an ongoing basis. And in my mind, that's a wonderful thing. Okay, let's just go to Penguin, another publisher.
All right. Penguin is a publisher. Penguin has something called Penguin Classroom. And Penguin Classroom is basically a network or organization of newsletters and updates and invites and exciting things about their resources free of charge for teachers, to give you an entry point as a member of the circle of readers and writers and thinkers and world change artists, and for the students. And in particular, Penguin has specialized in taking the offerings that they're going to give at schools and sharing them in several ways. One way is that they have every fall, spring, and summer, they have a webinar where you can come for free, and they send you after the webinar a free book from the webinar, a free first edition of the book or a free galley. But they bring in those webinars, they have their professionals preview the upcoming titles, and they bring in the authors to tell you about why they developed it and how they feel, and to chat, and then you chat with them. And so that's a very wonderful aspect of it.
Let me ask a couple of quick questions here, okay? Because I see they have excerpts of their books. They're giving you a free excerpt, maybe a chapter.
They are giving you
Okay.
40 books, they give you 3 resources, an excerpt of it, which you, the teacher, now we talk about doing better things. You, the teacher, don't have to go out and buy a whole set of that book to share with your class or put it all up. You, the teacher, show that excerpt to the class, and the class figures out what might start the book and what might end the book, etc., or creates their own ending or illustrates it, etc. They also have, now this author, Mr. Chris Grabstein, used to be a performer for the Greenwich improvisational group. He worked with James Patterson at his advertising agency, and then he became a writer. Well, here's Chris, and he's using his performance skills to read aloud to you from his book. But also what you get is he gives you an activity, you have the excerpt, then you get an in-process video, and all of this, again, you can experience it live, but what you do is you put it into your folder, and this is like 10 lessons ready to go. What do we think Chris looks like? Why did Chris write this book? What are the puzzles in this book? It's about Luigi Limoncello, and there's lots of this. It's a series of books. You hear Chris, you see a trailer. The trailers are one of the things that they premiered, the book trailer, which is a teaser made for his book. You can anticipate it. So it's got like 5 lessons, good to go, with the excerpt, with the trailer, certainly better produced than you could produce. And they actually have teaching guides with the exact lessons, curriculum standards, alignment to your curriculum. So if you don't have time to create lessons or want to show that you're all aligned for your supervisor, they've got it. This has been a joy. And this conversation could go on for hours. This is an opportunity. This is an open road with free stuff all around you, and you don't have to set time for it. And if you need credits, that you're required to get credits, most of these things, you attend them, by the way, and then you can download a certificate. So I invite you to join this open road. I invite you to go on to doing better, but mostly to making better things. And the kids,
here's your favorite, or one of your favorites, Girls Who Code.
Okay, and again, it's a newsletter format, doesn't cost you a dime. It's not for girls only, by the way. Its focus is underserved girls who are underrepresented in the STEM, but it gives you a newsletter. It's about highlighting real, authentic girls working in STEM, women working in STEM, pioneers in STEM. Then it gives you free clubs after school. You fill out a small form. They send you the kits, the free stuff. They send you audios. They give you training for which you, the teacher, if you don't know certain things, you can get free training certificates. Then if you're a college student, they give you money for expenses. They have a free summer program for kids in middle and high schools, free leadership for students. So this really is a wonderful site to conclude with, because, and as Mark said, we're taking that pyramid and we're going to the top of the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. You're analyzing, you and the kids, you're synthesizing, you're collecting it together, but then there's create. The student becomes the leader, the teacher becomes the leader and sharer and coach in the classroom. You are enriched. You have all these materials that even if you're the greatest teacher on earth, you probably don't have time or the technical production capacity to create this. It's created. And look at these role models. They give you samples of young people from different groups who are diverse, who are making a difference. And it says to you, taking the Bloom pyramid, you can create, you can become this. Go on. This is your sample. And here we're going to give you a grant. We're going to give you some money. We're going to publish you. We're going to recognize you. I think that this is a conclusion.
Well, pretty much, yes. I want to mention that we got to about 5, maybe 6 resources tonight. You have an article that you wrote called Free Resources Good to Go on Teacher Demand. And that article has many more similar resources than we could get to in one talk in one evening. I will be making that available to the students with your permission, Dr. Rose. So you were talking about these wonderful programs that are good to go that are provided by Scholastic and Penguin and the Goodall Foundation and Girls Who Go on and on. And it occurred to me as I've been reviewing the materials you sent me that we could extend these. I mean, we could create projects out of all of this. We could have the kids do podcasts and videos in which they're the teacher. We could have kids do infographics and take surveys and oral history, all
These
kinds
are
of stuff.
all models. These all give form models. There are surveys, there are scavenger hunts, there are take action, actual check action challenges. So this is the fodder or formats for student and for teacher creativity for the highest level, for leadership.
Okay, now that's a good point for us to stop on. We've also been grooming ourselves this semester as peer leaders, people who colleagues in the school might turn to for suggestions for how to improve instruction so that it's exciting and inspiring and fulfilling. Again, what this small body of resources represents is models and samples. Thanks so much for being here. Time well spent, I believe.
This is stuff that will change children's lives. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.